Hello, and this time we are looking at describing transformations. And the key thing about your tests and GCSEs is they always say describe the single transformation. I can't stress that enough, because if you want to describe how the yellow C triangle becomes the B, well, there's hundreds of ways you could do it. You could translate it one step, one step, one step. That's, do 3 single transformations there, and then do a rotation, and then sort of maybe that misses, so you translate it back, or you reflect it one way and then another, and then you enlarge it up and then down, and you could do a whole plethora of things, and they can't be marking an infinite number of different solutions. So it's a single transformation, and then there's one answer. And not only that, but it's quite prescriptive as to what you have to write down and how many marks you get. So I've got a little table here. If it's translation that's being asked for, obviously it won't tell you, but if it is a translation, so for example, the yellow triangle C to the purple triangle T, or T to C, in fact, then you have a mark for saying the word translation, or translate, or translating, or translated. It doesn't matter, as long as it's something related to translating, or translation, translate. And then you get the second mark. So this column, that's like 1 mark, the second mark, and the third mark for questions that apply to it, yes? And the second mark for telling the vector. So that's sort of like, how many left and how many down, or up and right, and, how many places to count to move it. A reflection, you have to write the word reflection, so between T and A is a reflection, and you have to give the equation of the mirror line, or in this case you could say line M, I suppose, and here, look, they've got the equation of this mirror line. They've actually been kind and drawn it on for us, y equals -1. Don't expect in a GCSE for them to draw those on and label them. They'll just leave it blank, and you've got to realise that's where the line is and what is the equation. Rotation enlargements get 3 marks. The word rotation, of course, or rotate, or rotated, etc. You get the drill. You get a second mark for the angle and direction. So you can't just say 90 degrees, because is that 90 degrees that way or that way? So you have to say 90 degrees clockwise, or anti-clockwise. Obviously, if it's 180, you don't need to say, because 180 one way or the other results in the same thing. But you do need to give the direction if it's a 90 degrees or some other degrees. And you get the third mark for the center of rotation. So where are you spinning it around? Okay, so if I am spinning, I'm just looking for the one that is a rotation, T becomes B. If I rotate it around this point here, well, I ain't going to get all the way down to B. It's going to end up here, isn't it? Is it? Or have I done that wrong? It's going to lie down flat. Yes, I think so. That's straight up. Yes, so it's going to sort of spin round. So it's looking the right shape. It's in the same direction, but it's not landed on top. We'd have to then do another translation. We have to do a translation, and we're not allowed to. It's a single movement we have to do. The single transformation. So that one movement there, nope, not good enough. You've got to find a different center. If you spin it around a different place, will it then, if I spin it around this point here, it's 3 up to that corner, so it's going to draw it there. So we're getting better, but we're still not in the right place. So the center is very important. And for enlargement, you get 1 mark for enlargement, 1 mark for saying the scale factor equals whatever it is. So is it twice as big, 3 times as big? That's the sort of how many times bigger have you made each side. And again, a center of enlargement. But this one's easier to find. You can find this relatively straightforward on a grid. Harder. There is a method for doing rotation. You have to do bisectors, perpendicular bisectors of the side. Hang on. I think you join up sides, so like you join that to the equivalent side, and that to the equivalent side, and that to its equivalent side. But they don't meet up. But if you do their perpendicular bisectors, then those meet up at the center. So it's better in an exam just to sort of guess and try it. You've got a piece of tracing paper, so you can just try, hold your pen down. Does that work? No. Does that work? And then And if you can't find it, you can still get 2 marks. But even mention a suggestion of another transformation and you get absolutely nothing. Even if you've put 2 things correctly, and then you say, and translate it, or you just give a vector as if you're translating it, nothing. You get 0. So please don't do that. So let's do it. We're going to do T onto each of these shapes and write down what we need. So T onto A. It's a reflection. I can see that. It's sort of, if I tilt my head, there's the mirror line there. It looks very symmetrical. So for question A, we get a mark for saying reflect. Oh, can't spell though. Now, if you can't spell, then you still get the marks as long as it's clear what you're doing. So sneak my C back in. Reflect. And then we just have to say the equation of this line. So, and we can say the word about. It's good to sort of do vaguely full sentences, even though it's not a sentence so much, but, there we are. Reflect about, and then we need the equation of this line. Now, because they've labelled it, I could say line M, but let's say they didn't label it. I then have to work out the equation. If I step 1 to the right, it goes at 1. Yeah, so it's a gradient of 1. It goes through at -1. So it's y equals x minus 1. So a bit of a sneaky one, that one. They don't normally give you such a difficult line equation to do, because then that's testing can you do equations of lines as well, which is a bit unfair. Not unheard of, but a bit unfair. A bit tricky. B, so from T to B, we said it's a rotation. I can see that. It's pointing up, now it's pointing right, so it's rotated, so I get a mark for rotate. Rotate, what am I doing? Let's try again. It's too late in the day for me to be able to spell. That's unfortunate. Rotate. And it's spinning around 90 degrees like this. So that's 90 degrees. And it's doing it around clockwise, same direction as a clock. There's usually an analog clock in the exam room if you need to have a look at that, just to check that you remember which way clockwise is. And then where's the center? So without tracing paper, I'm thinking, okay, I need to pick a point where I can make an L shape sort of arm. So, or not an L shape, but I can make an arm here, 1 and 2. And if that spins round, no, it'll be there, 1 and 2. So yeah, I always imagine that. So from that center, then I can see it spinning round. And if that's joining onto the heel of the triangle, it should join onto the heel, and it doesn't. So I suspect the right answer is here, because that's 2 by 2 to the heel and 2 by 2 to the heel, so it's rotated round nicely. So that's 1 mark, 2 mark, second mark rather for that. And they don't build up, so if you don't put the word rotate but you put that down, you'll get the mark for your 90 degrees clockwise, and they're all independent. And so the final one is to say about, and you don't have to say the word about, and then give the coordinate. So what's that? 0, -1. Okay, part C, I can just sneak this in before I have to erase something, or maybe put down the bottom corner. So part C, T to C, it hasn't changed its direction. It's still pointing upwards, it's still the same size, so it is a translate. Or translation, translating, whatever you want to put. And then we can either give the vector, so if we did it in vector form, we would say, okay, from the heel, it's 1, 2 left, 1, 2, 3 down. So -2, -3. You can absolutely write it in words. You get full marks in GCSE for writing in words. Just make sure, a lot of people will do the 3 down okay, and then they go and 2 across, and my heart sinks because you lose that mark now. You get your mark for translate if you put it, but you can't get the mark for saying 2 across, because, I mean, that doesn't look like a 2 in any case, but which way across, left or right? So you do have to specify, okay? You can't just say the word across. And finally, for D, we can sneak it in down under here, so we don't need to rub anything out. D, from T to D, is an enlargement. So you can put that down. And then we need to say the scale factor, so it's gone from 1 wide to 2 wide, from 2 tall to 4 tall, so it's a scale factor SF of 2. It's twice as big. And then to find the centre of enlargement, you just join up the like corners. So the heel here and the heel here join them up with a straight line. We've already got the dotted line in anyway. And then the tip here and the tip, join those up with a straight, albeit slightly shaky for me, line. And where they cross over, that's the centre of enlargement, that coordinate there. Now, you can do it with all of the corners. They'll all meet up there. So if you join that one on, that just confirms that that I am right. And so this is enlargement, scale factor 2, about the centre, which is this point here, 3, 2. And I've got all of my marks for each of these questions. Now, you can get some more confusing stuff going on. You can get negative enlargements with fractional enlargements. You could get 180-degree rotations. Obviously, you know, there's lots of different things that could happen. More difficult equations of lines, etc., etc. But in terms of what do you need to put down to get the full marks, it's this little table here that you need to remember. And remember the couple of things like no crosses, please, left or right. Make sure, or just do it in the vector. If you know how the vector works, that's fine. Don't forget to write your clockwise down on that one, and make sure it is one transformation and you don't give me a rotate and then a little vector that moves it, translates it down. You'll get nothing, so please don't do it. Better to leave the center off and lose that mark but get the other two than destroy it and get nothing by writing two transformations. Anyway, I've rambled on about this for too long, so I'll let you go now. If there's anything I've not mentioned, you can pop it in the comments below, but otherwise, ta-ra for now.